Hello everyone, so today I want to go ahead and talk with you guys about the 2016 Dodge Charger SRT 392 infotainment system. This vehicle is actually no longer in production, however it is still pretty popular, so people are probably going to flock to this in a few years when it becomes rare, and we'll go ahead and have a video on how to actually operate the infotainment system and what you can find in there. So we'll start off with a few basic things such as the radio, which is going to be very common, and how to connect your media. And then we'll also go ahead and talk about a few apps and things that you're going to notice in this that are actually going to carry over into the newer models. But again, if you're looking for a 2016, we'll go ahead and talk about what we have. So while this is a little bit of an outdated system, there is still a lot in here that can make the car enjoyable for many years. So for one, we'll kind of bypass the radio a little bit. You have your audio controls here. You have your standard AM, FM preset stuff that you want up there. You do have your speed adjusted volume, as you can see. So as you're going faster, the volume goes up. Pretty wicked, if I can say so myself. It actually seems like a lot of fun. And you also do have your speaker balancing, as well as you're able to move it around. If you want more to be played in the back, you can, so on and so forth. So overall, pretty easy to navigate. Radio is really good. The sound in this can sometimes get a little questionable, but overall it's not horrible. Going into your media, unfortunately this model does not have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so you will have to rely on your Bluetooth and either your USB cord or your aux cord for that matter. You can even use an SD card if you wanted to, but basically this is a little bit of an older model, so it does not have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto in it, so unfortunately you're going to be missing out on that. However, again, if you're buying this vehicle, it's just one of the consequences that you're going to have to live with, but overall it's not horrible. You can connect your Bluetooth audio device and even charge it at the same time, so it's not like you're really missing out too much. Also too, just make sure that when you are setting it up, you are in park and the car is stopped. Otherwise it will not engage or allow you to connect your device. Same thing. So moving into things such as your controls, this is where I actually had a little bit of a hard time like getting used to this, just because I'd rather there be buttons for like a variety of reasons. One of which is if I'm in the summer and I hit the heated seat button and then all of a sudden like my screen goes out and I can never get it back, I'm just going to be cooking my buttons. And it's one of those things where I don't necessarily like trust the screen per se, just because like you never know, it could just go, I could hit screen off by accident and then it never turns back on. So one of those things where I kind of just like a little questionable, but overall it's not like the biggest of deals as long as the screen continues to work. We do have our heated and cooled seats, and we also have a heated wheel. If I go into settings here, I can change things such as my display. I've got multiple displays I could actually use. For example, if I were to go here and hit my set theme, I can change it from that blue light to something such as a red pattern in the back, so on and so forth. So you don't necessarily have to leave it in the blue setting. Some people just do. Overall, not necessarily like the biggest thing for me. Like, I don't really care if it's blue or red. My mom likes blue, so I just kind of leave it. You can also set your language, so on and so forth. If you also wanted to go further, you can set your clock into 24-hour time scale and things of that nature. You could even set the sensors on the back of the vehicle to read more sensitive. If, let's say, you're backing out of a spot and don't want to hit somebody, you can change it that way. You could also delay the camera, so when you put it into drive from backing out of your spot, just in case that shopping cart is flying behind you, you can go ahead and get out of the way by having that camera delayed there, and you can also see it. You also do have your hill start assist, very common in cars nowadays, just because it's not good for it to roll backwards when you're on a hill, so it will hold the brake for you until it recognizes that you are hitting the gas. So kind of a good feature there. It saves a lot of gearboxes. Moving on from settings, so we're going to go kind of into the apps here, and you can kind of see that everything, it's kind of like a home page sort of deal. So like if you have an iPhone or an Android, you can kind of see all of your apps in one sit, and this is no different. You do have your favorites on here. So we can go ahead and go into App Manager, set favorites, so on and so forth. But what I want to specifically show you are things such as the performance pages. So performance pages are a lot of fun to use just because you can kind of see how your car is behaving. For example, you can record your 0 to 60 times, you can save them, you could even go as far as to get your best 0 to 60 times, so on and so forth. So the way to do that is we go into timers. You can see here it will measure your 0 to 60, your 0 to 100, your quarter mile, your eighth of a mile, so on and so forth. Then you can save them. get your best and your last, and you can reminisce about that time that your 0 to 60 was 3.7 seconds because you were going downhill. So next thing is you can see your performances. So you can see your coolant temperature, oil temperature, and oil pressure, but from the first screen, and then you go into gauges 2, and you can see you have your battery voltage. So this one's getting a little bit low. It might be time for a new battery. And you have your intake air temperature and your transmission temperature. So there are things here that you can actually ultimately see up here as well, but you also do have them in this performance app, and it's really cool. I actually do like it. You also have your G-forces, so if, let's say, for example, you are trying to be Roman Pierce from Fast and the Furious, and you are racing that police car down Brazil, you can actually record your G-forces on your body. However, in this particular case, we're not moving, so we're not going to really be getting a G-force. You can go into the engine as well, and you can see everything that we need to see. We see our miles per hour. We see that blip of 485 horsepower ultimately drop once the gearbox shifts. And then we'll see our torque here once it passes 4,100 RPMs. This thing will no longer have the 400, I think it's 73 pounds of torque. You can see what gear you're in, then you can ultimately see your oil pressure, so on and so forth. So, heck yeah, everything we need. Moving into things such as the drive mode, this is where it gets really fun to kind of play around with it. So as you can see here, everything is kind of in street mode as it's in default. Eco mode is not standard. Well, it is in this vehicle, but it's not the first thing that the car goes to. Everything will be in street mode, and your paddle shifters will be on. So this will actually start the gearbox in first gear, and then once you go into eco mode, it will start it in second, and ultimately change the shift pattern to be a little bit more eco-friendly. Granted, you just bought a 6.4 liter Hemi V8. How eco-friendly are you gonna be? Woohoo! I started in second gear. Heck yeah! Save the world. So with this, you can go into things such as setting up a valet mode. Now with this one, it will require a pin. It'll require a 4-digit pin that only you know. So when you ultimately go to valet your vehicle, the vehicle will run on very reduced performance. I think it's only 6 cylinders, and it will not pass, I think, 4,000 RPMs. So very good feature to have, honestly. It's one of those things where you may want to consider it, as a lot of people, you cannot trust them with these kind of cars. They will go out and joyride them. You also do have your race options here. Now, granted, I'm not going to go activating things just because it may actually send a signal to Dodge that launch mode has been activated and then the transmission is no longer under warranty. So I will not do that, but what you can do is you can actually RPM launch your vehicle. Right now, it is actually set at 3,500 RPMs. Granted, you can go ahead and set it up higher if you like. It doesn't necessarily off the line. It does accelerate quickly, but the thing is you're more spinning tires. So unfortunately, I personally don't know if I'd want to use this, but granted, I'm not going to. I'm not going to go crazy on it just because, again, I don't want to void a warranty that, accidentally. So let's not do that, and kind of just go from there. So with that, we'll go into custom mode, and basically this is what the custom mode is set up on this particular car. The transmission's in sport, the traction and steering are in track, but as you can see, you can actually put things such as the suspension in street mode, but then the steering's in track mode to make it heavier. So there's a lot of things that you can do to switch things around in these controls, which is a lot of fun. Sport mode is a blast, but the thing about it is nothing is going to top track mode. That track mode is fun. When you get this thing into sport, yes, it does behave aggressively. The steering does get heavier. The suspension gets a little bit stiffer. But when you go into track mode, man, you are opening a can of worms. This thing goes beast mode on you, and it's a lot of fun. So the transmission will shift so quickly, and just the engine will snarl at you. It is fantastic. When you get into those higher RPMs, the transmission's so crisp that many people have actually compared it to a dual clutch. And the thing about it is this is an 8-speed ZF torque converter automatic, but it's so beefed up that this thing just it shifts amazing. It's just a lot of fun. The suspension, again, will get very, very rough, and the steering will get very, very heavy. And it's just a lot of fun. You feel like you have a little bit more control of the vehicle, but overall, though, this thing is a blast to drive when it comes to these specific settings. But granted, I go into default usually, and everything kind of just goes back to normal. It adjusts, it rides nicely, but yes, the bigger wheels and the smaller tires ultimately do make for a little bit of a bumpy ride. And with the low profile, God forbid you need to get out of a driveway, oh my lord, you will be scraping the bumper like nobody's business. Moving into the navigation, this is obviously before Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so yes, you're going to be probably utilizing navigation on this if you have it as a package. It's just one of those things where, you know, they just didn't have it yet. They didn't have Apple CarPlay yet, or they did, but it was only on certain models. So it's one of those things where, obviously, now with the times, you're going to have Apple CarPlay, so this is going to be less important, but this is how you would access your navigation, so on and so forth. So it's a lot of fun. Into your phone settings, they do have phone and media actually separated. So you are able to just connect it as a phone if you'd like, or you can connect it as media. And once you connect it as a phone, you can use your hands-free Bluetooth that every state is requiring. So with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this. This has been the infotainment system of the 2016 Dodge Charger SRT 392. I will do one on the RT as it's a little bit more simple, but I also have to do a few things on the RT as well, such as shift point videos, so on and so forth, to kind of give you an idea of what the more common charger will actually behave like, because this one is a little bit different. So with that, I hope you guys enjoyed. Unfortunately, like I said, this car is no longer in production. The Scat Pack is the only one available with the 6.4 liter Hemi with the 8-speed automatic transmission. Granted, now all Dodge Chargers do have 8 speeds, so it's just the tuning of them is going to be a lot different. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Please like and subscribe, and if you'd like to see more videos like this, granted I know my voice is going to be a little bit annoying, and for those of you guys that stayed through all the way until the 12-minute mark, which is probably where this is going to end, I appreciate you watching, and hopefully I can get more videos like this out in the future and kind of just grow the channel. So if anybody does have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and maybe I will go ahead and be able to answer them. Thanks folks, have a good one.